You can now get a 30-day trial to experience the Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now. This is the story of a bittersweet triumph. It took place in 8 countries over 10 months and nearly ended with one of the most unlikely footballing success stories of recent times. This is how Fulham nearly won the Europa League. The 2008-09 Premier League season was a triumph for Roy Hodgson's Fulham. A year before, the club had survived relegation by virtue of their goal difference alone, and in response, spent their summer recruiting smartly, signing forwards Andy Johnson and Bobby Zamora from Everton and West Ham respectively, Zoltan Gera from West Bromwich Albion, and veteran goalkeeper Mark Schwarzer from Middlesbrough. The effect was dramatic. Fulham would beat Tottenham, Arsenal and Manchester United at Craven Cottage and earn creditable draws at Aston Villa and Liverpool away. The result was a 7th placed finish, just 34 goals conceded and a place in the Europa League qualifying round. And that is where Fulham's campaign began, in the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius at the end of July. They would make short work of FK Vetra, winning both legs 3-0 to progress. On to the playoff round, which pitted them against Russian side Amkar Perm. Goals from Johnson, Zamora and Clint Dempsey would build a 3-0 lead, and although they'd concede late in both legs, Fulham held on to progress 3-2 on aggregate and qualify for the group stage. Their adventure had begun. And they had the perfect guide too. Manager Roy Hodgson had been appointed as Lawrie Sanchez's successor, and he'd begun assembling a team of experienced and responsible players who played with a passing style which belied their organised nature. Hodgson's CV was unusually eclectic for a British coach. He'd managed in Sweden and Italy, Denmark, among other countries, and had also led the national teams of Finland, the United Arab Emirates and Switzerland too. He has a more continental approach, Norwegian centre-half Brede Hangeland told The Guardian in 2010. He spends more time on the training ground than other managers over here. He's so meticulous in everything he does, former Fulham coach Dave Besant told Dom Fifield. He probably spends more time preparing the team for what they have to do when they don't have the ball than what they need to do with it. So a trip to Bulgaria delivered a solid start in the group, with Diamanci Kamara tucking home an equaliser against CSKA Sofia to secure a point. Back in London, down by the Thames, a Danny Murphy winner against Basel would deliver the first win. And 3 weeks later, only a 93rd minute equaliser would deny Fulham a win over Roma, a side that included Daniele De Rossi, Philippe Mexes and Jeremy Menez. A Kamara penalty would give them the lead in the reverse fixture in Rome before second half goals turned the game around, but a Zoltan Gera header was enough to beat CSKA at home, and in the final match day, 2 from Zamora and another from Gera would beat Basel 3-2 at St Jakob Park. "We're all going on a European tour," sang the fans from the stands in Switzerland, and they weren't coming home just yet. You see, Fulham were a small squad, but that Europa League campaign showed Hodgson's ability to stretch it, and to extract the most from players who would almost all reach their peak under him. Gera enjoyed a fabulous season and alongside Schwarzer was ever present throughout the European run. Hangeland was the totem-like centre-half, playing next to the unheralded Aaron Hughes and inside Paul Konchesky. In midfield, veteran orchestrator Danny Murphy was enjoying a new lease of life, alongside Dixon Atuhu, a hugely underrated midfielder who'd spent most of his career in the Football League. Clint Dempsey possessed rare class, but in other attacking positions there were resurgent players who'd been cast off by other clubs. Simon Davis had been sold by Everton, and Damien Duff was allowed to leave Newcastle for just £4 million. Gera and Zamora would each score their 3rd goals of the tournament in the second round first leg against Shakhtar Donetsk, securing a 2-1 win which they'd protect with a 1-1 draw in Ukraine. It created the last 16 tie that Fulham's run is best remembered for, and the moment when their Europa League participation was expected to end. Against Juventus in Turin, and a 3-1 loss to a side which included David Trezeguet, Claudio Marchisio and Brazilian playmaker Diego. Still, Fulham didn't travel back to London empty-handed, as they returned with Atuhu's deflected away goal, and it would prove to be crucial. Not that it seemed that way 2 minutes into the second leg when Trezeguet drilled in a loose ball to make it 4-1 on aggregate, but Fulham climbed the mountain. Zamora's chest and hit made it 4-2 before, after just 27 minutes, Guerra wriggled beyond the Juve defence and drew a red card from Fabio Cannavaro. 4-2 became 4-3 when Guerra again converted Davis's cutback, and 4 minutes after half-time, after Diego had handled a duff cross, he would convert a penalty to make it 4-4. Craven Cottage would have to wait for the coup de grace, and Hollywood actor Hugh Grant was seen fidgeting nervously as the second half wore on. But it was worth it. With 8 minutes left, Dempsey received the ball on the edge of the box and cut a perfect lob across and over goalkeeper Antonio Cimenti, and in to the top corner. The reward for that was the first of 2 ties against Bundesliga sides. The first, against Wolfsburg, was won home and away, courtesy of goals from Zamora and Duff. The second, in the semi-final, was against HSV, the former European champions, who were on a path of decline by 2010 but could still boast Ruud van Nistelrooy up front, Brazilian midfielder Zé Roberto at their heart, and a young Jerome Boateng at the back. Hodgson set Fulham out in a 4-5-1 after the first leg, and would lose lone forward Zamora to injury just after half-time. Fulham dug in. They wouldn't record a shot on target, but their work rate was exemplified by a tireless Guerra performance. And on one of the few occasions when they did offer a gap, Schwarzer would save well from Van Nistelrooy. Fulham left Hamburg without an away goal, and 21 minutes into the second leg, HSV would find one, with Mladen Petric curling a brilliant free kick into the top corner. Hodgson's side were in another hole. With time running out and 20 minutes left, Simon Davis juggled the ball on the edge of the box, one way and then the next, before chopping in the equaliser. And 5 minutes later, when the Germans failed to clear from the corner, the ball broke in the 6-yard box and, fittingly, having been arguably their player of the tournament, Guerra lashed it in to put Fulham in their first ever European final, which would be played in Hamburg of all places. And it would be a final against a decadently talented Atletico Madrid, who could boast Diego Forlan and Sergio Aguero up front, Portuguese winger Simão and the late Jose Antonio Reyes out wide, plus a young David De Gea in goal. So did Fulham have one more miracle? Well, yes, actually. When an Aguero scuff was tucked away by Forlan after half an hour, it looked like Atleti's class had decisively told. But back came Fulham one more time. Just 5 minutes later, with Davis drilling Guerra's cross past De Gea at the back post. And on the game went. Schwarzer saved from Forlan, De Gea denied Davis, and into extra time, Fulham would hold their own, as the game hurtled for penalties. Or at least it would have done, had a late run by Aguero ended with a whipped cross, a faint Forlan touch, and a 116th minute Atletico winner. There was nothing left. When full-time and extra time blew, it scattered the Fulham players to the floor. Reporting for the BBC that night, Phil McNulty wrote that Fulham and Hodgson may have left the Nordbank Arena empty-handed, but rarely has a season without silverware been such an outstanding success. And he was right. No matter the outcome, this would be a story to endure, just not quite with the right ending. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is where the Ralph Rangnick to Manchester United story broke, where a team of journalists have provided unrivaled coverage of Newcastle United's new ownership, and where dedicated writers cover every Premier League team no matter their place in the table. And you can try it free now for 30 days.